Welcome back to Chat Like a Native. If you feel like, you understand English perfectly well in class, but then a native speaker starts talking fast and it all just turns into a blur. Well, this session is definitely for you. We're not just doing vocab today. We're going to show you maybe 3 core ways English kind of compresses itself: the linking, the shrinking, and the rhythm.
Yeah, how it all squishes together.
Exactly. And we'll help you train your ear to actually hear the pattern inside that blur. We should have you sorted in the next few minutes.
It's such a common thing, that frustration. You know the words, but when they're all stringed together fast, your brain's kind of waiting for the full, careful sounds.
Right. Which just don't happen in real conversation.
Exactly. They don't exist. So, yeah, we have to get the ear ready for that compression.
Okay, let's dive in then. Quick warm-up drill first. Think about a really common phrase. What do you want to do?
Say that slowly to yourself first. What do you want to do? Okay. Now, listen to how it usually sounds when people talk fast, relaxed, more like, what do you want to do?
Wow, yeah. A lot just disappears, doesn't it?
It really does.
But if you focus on maybe the biggest reduction there, the word to, goes from that clear ooh sound to this tiny little quick sound. To, like to.
Yeah, to. Almost nothing.
Okay, so listener, try saying just wanna do, but really, really focus on making that to sound inside wanna. Super small and fast.
Yeah.
Wanna do.
Want to do. That little compression, that to becoming to, that's sort of the key to unlocking fast listening.
How so?
Well, if you can start expecting those little reductions in the small words, the grammar words, your brain stops trying so hard to hear them fully pronounced.
Ah, so it frees up processing power.
Exactly. Lets you focus on the important words, the meaning words. That's how we start making sense of the blur.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's break down the mechanics. How do words actually stick together like that? Let's start with the first big idea. Linking. Linguists call it catenation.
Catenation, yeah. Or just linking.
Yeah.
And this is the one that really seems to, erase the spaces between words for learners. So catenation basically means when a word ends in a consonant sound and the next word starts with a vowel sound, they link up smoothly, directly.
And it's the sound, not the letter. Right.
Crucial point, yes. It's all about the sounds. Think of it less like sticking 2 separate words together and more like creating one long, smooth sound shape.
Okay, give us an example.
A classic one is pick it up. Say it slow, pick it up. 3 sounds.
Pick it up. Okay.
But linked, it sounds like pick it up.
Pick it up. Yeah, it's like the K sound from pick jumps over to start it.
Exactly. It gets sort of kidnapped and moved. And here's why that's tricky. Your brain has stored pick it and up as separate items with clear starts and ends. When it hears pickied up, it tries to match it to those separate files, but the boundaries are gone, so the brain just flags it as too fast or unclear.
So you have to update your mental dictionary, essentially, to recognize picked up as meaning pick it up.
Precisely. You need to learn the linked shape of the phrase.
Okay, so listener, can you hear that difference between pausing between words and linking them smoothly?
Let's try a little drill. We'll link some common pairs. Try saying these with us and really focus on making the join totally smooth. No bumps.
Okay, first one, take it, linked.
Take it. Feel that K sound starting the word it. Take it.
Next, make it.
Make it. Pause once. Nice and smooth.
And read it.
Read it. Good. Now, if you felt any little pause, even tiny between the words, you're close. But the goal is one continuous flow. Like, read it. That final consonant glues them together.
And it's not just consonants linking to vowels, is it? There's another kind of linking.
Right. Sometimes you get what's called inclusion. This happens when one word ends in a vowel sound and the next word also starts with a vowel sound.
Ah, okay. Like, go on.
Exactly. Your mouth naturally inserts a little W or Y sound just to make it smoother. So, go on becomes go one.
Go one. I hear it. Or like, I agree.
Becomes I agree. That little W or lie is the bridge. It's the missing space people think they're not hearing. It's actually an added sound.
Okay, so linking helps smooth out the connections between words. But what about words themselves just shrinking?
Yeah.
Vanishing almost.
Yes. If linking glues the edges, we also need to talk about how the middles disappear, that huge reduction we hear everywhere.
Which brings us to big idea number 2, the rhythm engine. And this is all about weak forms.
Exactly. See, English is what we call a stress-timed language. This is fundamental. We only really emphasize or beat the important words. The meaning carriers.
Content words, right? Like nouns, main verbs,
Yeah,
adjectives.
these are the ones. Everything else, the little grammar words, they shrink, they get weak.
Okay, explain that rhythm thing a bit more, like music.
Yeah, think of it like music, maybe with a steady beat. Let's say 4 beats per measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. The important words like Joe or S-sharp or want, those are like the big drum hits. They have to land on the beat.
Okay, so Joe, S-sharp P,
Yeah.
want.
Right. Now, the little function words like the two of and can they're like the quiet little filler sounds in between, the hi-hats or something.
Mm-hmm.
And because the main beat is fixed, these little words have to squeeze into the time available. So they speed up and shrink down dramatically.
And shrinking means losing their vowel sound.
Often, yes. They reduce down to the schwa sound, usually. That little weak sound like or ta. Remember, two becoming two.
Yeah.
Or think about and. We almost never say bread and butter with a full clear and. It becomes bread and butter.
Bread and butter.
Right.
You just don't have the time or energy for the full word if you want to keep the rhythm.
Exactly. You have to reduce the energy. And sometimes it's quite drastic. Take the word have, especially when it means obligation, like have to.
Oh, yeah, like I have to go.
Right. Very often, that reduces completely to sound like have to. I have to go.
I have to go.
Okay.
It's almost like one word. Is that just slang? Or is it standard?
It's extremely common, standard pronunciation in fast, natural speech. It's a grammatical compression almost. Not sloppy, just efficient.
Okay, hafta. That's a good one. But wait, if these function words shrink so much, how do you tell the difference between similar ones? Like, I can do it versus I can't do it. The sound seems so close.
That's a fantastic question, because the tinning can't can often disappear too, especially before another consonant.
Right, so how do you know?
Stress. It comes back to the rhythm, the beat. In the positive, I can do it, we usually don't stress can. It's weak. It shrinks to tin. I shouldn't do it.
I shouldn't do it. Okay, weak.
But in the negative, I can't do it, we almost always stress can't, because the negative meaning is important. It gets the beat. I can't do it.
So you listen for the stress, not necessarily the tiny tin sound. If can is weak, it's positive. If it's strong, it's negative.
That's usually a much more reliable clue in fast speech. Forget hunting for the tin. Listen for the beat.
That's really useful. Okay, let's try a little practice with that have to reduction. Listener, repeat after me, but change the subject each time. Keep that have to quick and compressed. Ready? I have to study.
Keep it quick, hafta.
We have to leave.
Good. Keep the rhythm. We have to leave.
They have to call.
We have to call. Excellent. The more you practice hearing and even saying these compressed chunks, the less work your brain has to do when you hear them live.
You stop waiting for have to and just recognize have to.
Exactly. You recognize the sound shape.
Okay, great. So we've got linking and we've got shrinking weak forms based on rhythm. But, even knowing this stuff, people still get stuck. They hit walls.
Oh, definitely. Common problems pop up.
So let's tackle maybe the top 3 sticking points and offer some quick fixes, maybe using listening strategies.
Sounds good. Okay, mistake number 1 we often hear about. I just can't hear the word boundaries. It all runs together. People feel like the speaker isn't leaving any spaces.
Right. So the fix isn't to try and find the spaces, is it?
No. Stop listening for silence. The fix is to train yourself to hear the links, the bridges. Practice listening for catenation, like peakied up, and intrusion, like go one. Recognize that the link is the connection, not a missing space.
So embrace the flow instead of fighting it.
Precisely. Expect the continuity.
Okay. What's the second common problem?
This one's about the vowels. All the vowels sound the same when they're reduced. Because so many function words shrink down to that weak sound.
Yeah, it can feel like guesswork. Is it they can all sound like
Exactly. But the fix here is maybe a bit counterintuitive. Don't start by focusing on the tiny vowel differences.
Oh, what then?
Focus on the stress first, the rhythm. Remember, English rhythm highlights the important words. Find the beat. Once you identify the main words that are stressed, the context they provide will usually make it obvious what the little reduced word must be.
So use the loud words and the situation to figure out the quiet words.
Right. Use the context that the rhythm gives you. Let the beat guide you.
Okay. Context via rhythm. Got it. And the third big issue.
This is maybe the most frustrating one. I just lose the sentence halfway through. They speed up and I'm lost. Comprehension just drops off a cliff.
Yeah, that's demoralizing. What's the fix?
The fix here is about changing listening gears. You need to switch from bottom-up listening, trying to catch every single sound and syllable, to top-down listening.
Top down, meaning looking at the big picture.
Exactly. Stop trying to process every tiny sound and start predicting where the speaker is going. Use the signposts in the conversation.
Signposts. Like what?
Discourse markers. Words like so, anyway, but, however, on the other hand. Or, for example, these words are like road signs. They tell you the relationship between ideas.
Okay, so if I hear however, I know a contrasting idea is coming.
Right. Even if you miss a few words after however, you know the kind of idea to expect. It keeps you anchored in the overall meaning, even if some details get blurred by speed. It's like using the highways on a map instead of trying to follow every single tiny street.
Navigate by the big signposts. I like that. Okay, excellent fixes. Let's do a really quick check now, make sure these ideas are sticking. Listener, just think the answer to yourself. Ready?
Okay, question 1. When a word ends in a consonant sound and the next starts with a vowel sound and they link smoothly together, what's that pattern called? Pause 3s.
That smooth connection, that's catenation or linking. Hope you got that.
Question 2. When you're trying to hear the difference between can and can't in fast speech, what should you listen for primarily? The T sound or something else? Pause 3s.
Remember the tip. Listen for the stress. Can't is usually stressed. Can is usually weak.
Nice. And final question number 3. If you're feeling lost in fast speech and you start listening specifically for words like so, anyway, or, for example, to follow the main idea, what kind of listening strategy are you using? Pause 3s.
That's using those signposts. That's top-down listening, using prediction. If you got those, you're really starting to tune into how fast English works.
So just to wrap up what we've covered, it really boils down to maybe 3 key things you need to decode fast English well.
Okay, takeaway number 1.
English compresses, it squishes together, so you have to stop expecting every word to sound full and separate. Listen for the links, catenation, intrusion that create those smooth connections.
Got it. Expect the links. Takeaway 2.
Focus on the rhythm. Find the beat. Remember, content words, nouns, verbs, etc. Get the stress, they're loud. Function words, the, to, and etc. shrink into weak forms. Anticipate those weak forms.
And use the stress pattern to help figure things out, like with can't.
Yeah.
Okay. And the third takeaway.
Be strategic with how you listen. Don't always try to catch every sound. That's bottom up. When speech gets fast, switch gears. Use prediction and signpost, top down, to follow the main road of the conversation. Zoom in on specific sounds only when you really need to clarify something tricky.
Link, shrink, and strategize. Okay.
Perfect summary. And we want to leave you with a quick challenge, something to try right after this. We call it the beat first drill.
Ooh. Okay, what do we do?
It's designed to build that native timing by forcing you to make the filler words shrink. So first, get a steady beat going. Tap your foot, clap lightly, whatever, like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, got a beat.
Now read the sentence out loud, but only stretch out the capitalized words, making them land on the beat. Squeeze everything else in between. Ready? I want to go to the shop and buy some bread.
I want to go to the shop and buy some bread, said rhythmically, compressing function words.
Exactly. Now the goal is to try saying it faster and faster, but keep the taps evenly spaced. Don't speed up the taps. This forces you to compress to, the, and some even more to fit them in.
So the beat stays steady, but the little words get quicker.
Right. It trains your mouth to create the blur, which is honestly the fastest way to train your ear to understand the blur. Give it a go for 60 seconds.
Definitely try that drill. Okay, that's about all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining us as we explored the hidden mechanics of fast English. Keep practicing listening for that rhythm and those links.
Yeah, keep at it. And next time, we're going to talk about moving beyond just understanding. We'll look at how to stop just copying sounds and start really expressing yourself in English using a technique called shadowing 2.0. It helps with both hearing and speaking fluently. Should be good.
Sounds great. We'll see you then.